Sha'Carri Richardson came to Los Angeles with something to prove. Many people doubted her after the last 2 seasons, and the wind was not helping anyone in the race. But when the gun went off, she stayed calm, pushed to the finish, and won. Was this just a good start? Or is Sha'Carri finally back at her best? Los Angeles, California, the USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix. This is one of the premier American outdoor meets on the Diamond League calendar, and it draws serious professional fields. This is not a tune-up meet. This is not a soft opening race you throw on your schedule to get your legs under you without any real competition. The women who showed up in Los Angeles this season came to run. And in the women's 100 meters, what played out was not just a season opener. It was a statement about where the 2026 women's sprint conversation is about to go. Sha'Carri Richardson. Dallas, Texas. And if you spent the last 2 years listening to the noise around her career, what she showed up and did in Los Angeles is going to require a completely different conversation. Richardson grew up in Dallas, raised by her grandmother, who she has credited publicly as the most important person in her life and in everything she has built as an athlete. From the moment she started running competitively in Texas, the acceleration, the first step, and the kind of presence she carried on the track made her impossible to overlook. Some athletes learn how to compete. Richardson arrived already knowing. She announced herself at the 2021 U.S. Olympic trials with a 10.86 in the 100 meters. That performance alone put her on the map. But it was Budapest in 2023 that changed the entire conversation. At the World Championships, she ran 10.65 seconds in the 100 meters final. A personal best. A world-class time on the biggest stage in the sport. And with it, she became the first American woman to win the World Championship 100 meters title since Tori Bowie in 2017. That 10.65 is not a fluke mark. It was not a perfect day with a tailwind and an empty field. It was a World Championship final against the fastest women on the planet. That is not an accident. Coming into 2026, the questions were not about her ability. They were about her consistency. The 2024 Paris Olympics had been a difficult chapter. She entered as one of the favorites, but was upset by Julien Alfred, finishing with the silver medal. That result did not erase Budapest, but it added weight to a conversation that was already louder than it needed to be. People were watching. Some were waiting for confirmation that the best version of her was already in the past. She answered that in Los Angeles. But before we get to the race, understand what her track record actually tells you. From her teenage years in Texas to her collegiate career at LSU to a 10.86, at the Olympic trials to a 10.65. On a world championship stage, every stage of this career has produced a number that made people stop and recalibrate. That is the pattern. Not one good race, not one good season. A career built on showing up at the biggest moments and running faster than anyone expected. That is not an accident. At the Los Angeles Grand Prix, Richardson entered the 100 meters into conditions that were not going to give her anything for free. A headwind of negative 0.2 meters per second. That means the wind was working against every runner in that race from the first step out of the blocks. You are not going to see your best numbers into a headwind. Nobody does. And in a field of professional sprinters where Kayla White was lined up and ready to push, this was not a race where Richardson could cruise through on reputation alone. Kayla White is not a warm-up opponent. She is a legitimate professional sprinter who competes at the highest level on the circuit. If White gets out clean and finds her form through the drive phase, she is capable of making anyone in the world work for a win. And through the opening stretch of this race, that is exactly what was developing. White was not watching. She was racing. Richardson had to find her gears, had to push through the headwind, had to close against a competitor who was not giving an inch. This was not a runaway. This was a race. And that matters when you are reading the result. Richardson crossed the line in 10.99 seconds. She won. Kayla White finished second at 11.08. A gap of 0.09 of a second on a day when the wind was working against both of them from start to finish. Think about what that actually means. Into a headwind, in a season opener, against a professional field. On a day when Richardson was not anywhere near her 10.65 personal best, and she still won by almost 1/10 of a second. The conditions were not in her favor. The calendar said race 1. None of it changed the result. That is not an accident. Sha'Carri Richardson is back in the win column, and she opened her outdoor season the only way she knows how. But if you watch that race and only take away Richardson's name from it, you are leaving something important on the table. Kayla White ran 11.08 seconds in the same conditions, into the same headwind, against the same field. That time deserves to be taken seriously because White is someone who has been consistently competitive on the professional circuit, and she pushed Richardson from start to finish in Los Angeles. This was not a gap race where the winner jogged away from the field. White made Richardson run through the line. You need opponents willing to do that to produce meaningful early season results, and White showed up and raced. Her 11.08 is a strong performance on its own terms and a sign that the competition inside the women's 100-meter field in 2026 is not thinning out. If anything, it is getting more crowded at the top. What Richardson showed in Los Angeles does not just matter as a season opener. It matters because of what the rest of 2026 looks like for the women's 100 meters. Julien Alfred is out here. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden is out here. And now Sha'Carri Richardson is back with a win and a clear statement that her 2026 outdoor campaign is not a rebuild. It is a return. Those three names alone make the women's sprint conversation in 2026 one of the most interesting it has been in years. You have Alfred, who has already shown she is capable of running at an elite level on any stage. You have Jefferson-Wooden, who has been one of the most consistent performers in the American women's program. And you have Richardson, who, when she is right, is one of the most complete 100-meter sprinters in the world. 10.99 into a headwind in a season opener tells you that the engine is running. If Richardson gets through the outdoor season healthy, gets her rhythm through the next several meets, and puts together a clean race at a major championship, the gap between that 10.99 and her 10.65 personal best is a very real distance she is capable of closing, and that is the race you want to see. Richardson, at her best against Alfred and Jefferson-Wooden on a championships stage, is exactly the kind of women's sprint final that makes people stay up late and clear their schedules. Sha'Carri Richardson opened her 2026 outdoor season with a win in Los Angeles, 10.99 seconds into a headwind, and she reminded everyone watching exactly why writing her off was never the smart move. One race does not tell a full story, but the way she closed out that field in a professional meet on opening weekend tells you everything about where her head is at coming into this season. The women's 100 meters in 2026 just got a lot more interesting. Drop your prediction in the comments below. Can Sha'Carri get back to 10.65 this season, or does someone else take the top spot?